Hey everybody, it's the Sketch Zone Podcast. I'm Carlos Gomez, and with us this week, we're going to be talking to a really neat dude. We know a lot of common folks, and we're probably going to get into one of them in particular that's probably watching right now, but we're not going to tell him that we know he's there. Everyone, say hi to Matt Skonicki. You see how I saved that?
Yeah, you did good.
I almost tripped all over myself.
Yeah, I saw the eyes get real big.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, Charlie B. Williams III.
What's up, guys? Good to be back. As always, another week. It's been busy. I think I missed you guys last week, so glad to be back.
We missed everyone last week. I completely
yeah, we did.
Miss with
That's okay.
It was fun. It was fun. We had a good show.
Yeah, got stuck at work. It was good.
Oh, speaking of last week, Jack Kasperzak is back.
I'm back. Let's see if this week's gonna be different.
Yeah. So we're back. I wanted to talk about something that happened this week.
Oh yeah?
What you do?
I watched Game of Thrones and I want a dragon.
Why are you pausing like it's something big?
It's true. Like a dragon is as big as you can probably get.
I'm so far removed from that show only because I watched the first season. Yeah, I watched the first season. It was cool. Brother don't got HBO, so it's a little bit of a hamper in watching it. And now I'm so far literally, I'm so far gone.
Right.
It's a Drake. Did that. It's a Drake song. Anyway, but yeah, it's that I've kind of become indifferent. I don't know. Matt, do you watch Game of Thrones?
No, not. I don't have HBO or nothing.
See?
Sorry.
That's in the same boat as me.
But I show a lot of the making of stuff to my students.
Yeah.
Nice.
The dragons.
Yeah, the visual effects budget on each one of those episodes is nuts. It's more than most features. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been cool. They've been a lot more forthcoming with that stuff. I like that stuff that they bring that all out now.
And people get testy that it takes them, like a year and a half to release a season. Listen,
wow.
And it's perfect that we have visual effects artists and illustrator. Well, I have the panel is made of 3D badasses.
It's a 3D night.
Awesome. Each episode is about an hour, just short of an hour long, right?
Yeah.
So 2 episodes is a full-length movie. How long does it take to make one movie?
Well, it depends, but beginning to end, usually about 2 years.
Yeah. So there's 8 episodes per season?
Yep.
So
you see where I'm going with this?
How do they when they shoot it though? Because I've watched some of the making of. Maybe Matt knows this too from watching making of. When they shoot it, how long do they take to shoot? Do they shoot just the whole season all at once? And then how does that work for a Game of Thrones? Is it all 8
or
all
for
at
anything
once?
Really? Because everyone is going
since it's not film. I don't know. I don't know how long in between you guys have to wait on HBO when you guys are watching this.
I mean, I was working on Black Sails briefly, and that was roughly 8 months ahead of release.
Oh, okay.
By the time VFX post started, it was 8-ish months for an episode, which is a pretty good amount of time for a TV spot. But I mean, given the complexity of some of those episodes, I mean that's nothing compared to most feature stuff.
So it's similar to so basically similar like a TV schedule. Then I thought HBO might be.
I mean, they definitely. I think they do expand it out. I don't think it's like a a normal TV schedule because it's a little different. It's And then of course, it's not binging, so they're not dumping it all at once. They've got that buffer room.
Right, because it's interesting now with the Netflixes and the HBOs and stuff, like how these budgets are getting bigger and bigger. Because there's like a well-known anime called Death Note, and Netflix decided to pick it up and make a live-action version of it.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you guys seen the demon.
Yes.
I was like, it is creepy as fuck, and it's actually I was like, oh, that's really good though. Like the way it's composited, and like the first scene you see him in a classroom, I'm like, that's really good. And it's what you call it, doing the voice of it. It's what's his name? The guy that was in Boondock Saints. What's the guy's name? The one he says, where he says there will be blood. What is it? What is his name?
Yeah. William Dafoe, isn't it?
William Dafoe, yeah. I was going to say Christopher Walken, but yeah, William Dafoe. And it's just perfect voice for it. It's just like, because
I mean, he kind of already looks like that guy.
Right. Have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen Death Note on Netflix? Watch it. It's a Netflix original, so it's just an hour and a half or so long movie.
It's like a shadow. It looks like Groot.
Kind of. Yeah. It's based off of an anime, and they made it into a live action, which is really interesting. But watch it, because the compositing of this guy is awesome, and just the modeling and stuff, everything's good about it. It fits. Like the production value of a lot of these Netflix originals, which are when they're just Netflix movies, are really good. They're getting really good, and I'm interested. Yeah. It's interesting that they picked that series or that anime to do and make it into a short live action one. I don't know if they're like seeing how this plays out, but I would love to see that to be like an actual series, just in live action form. It was really well done. Huh?
What's it called?
It's called Death Note. It's on it's on Netflix. Really good stuff. So these production qualities are.
Speaking of good stuff,
what's up?
If anyone has any questions for the panel, that's right, folks. If you have any questions for anyone, you can use the Sketch Zone hotline. That's 408-753-8248. That's 408-SKETCH-8. Quick little hello to Dave Atsey. Hey, Dave, if you have any questions, you can obviously leave it in the live chat, or you can dial international 011-408-753-8248. That's 011-408-SKETCH-8. Welcome, Dave.
I like turtles.
That's how we do that. All right, let's get into our first segment, because that was a lot of fun last week, and we have an upgrade to speak of today.
Ooh. Oh.
So I went ahead and I have a problem. I have an addiction to Cards Against. I have an addiction to Cards Against Humanity.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were gonna say Kickstarter.
And every time you buy an expansion pack, they give you a bunch of blank cards. So I turned them into the official Sketch Zone fun prompt.
Let's go to the canvas here and let's get started. I believe every day's a good day when you paint.
Ooh, what are we doing this week?
Matt is like, what exactly is happening?
He doesn't know what he just walked into.
It's like rapid fire music.
Don't worry, it gets worse. All right, so this is where well, actually, let me share my screen, because there was a lot of participation this year.
Yeah, we had a good turnout last time.
And I'm going to show you guys some of the ones that
showing up on Twitter.
I did not see any on Twitter. However,
okay, so
the prompt last week was a rock star on a dark stage lit by a single spotlight, and this was yours truly, Jack, sketchbook Jack.
My awkward emo ant rock star.
This was mine. Dude was like stage diving.
In his underwear.
Our special friend Dave Atsy.
I like turtles.
Now, what's funny is someone on social media was like, why is it that you and Dave had your rock stars in underwear? And I thought,
I don't know.
And I thought, I don't know, great minds think alike. My personal hero, Shiloh.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I only saw the other one. He did too.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see this one. Okay.
Yeah, this one is totes amazing. He's got some crabs. Oh, Shiloh's got crabs. What the heck? But no, he's it's an underwater scene. I really like it. The coloring on this one is turned out really cool. And then we got a newbie to the show. I don't know his name though. STC Doodles. He has a literal rock star being lit by A. So we talked about that. Jack and I were joking around about that. So yeah. So anytime you guys feel the urge, feel free to draw what we're doing, and then we will draw along with you. With that being said, I have these wonderful cards. And Jack and I kept going back and forth. We couldn't pick what we wanted to do. So what we're going to do is randomize the entire thing. So I have all 5 cards. I'm going to place them. I shuffled them. I'm going to place them down on the table. And then I'm going to ask Matt. Matt, please pick a number between 1 and 5.
4.
4. 4 is a situation, not the one from Jersey Shore. That joke might be the only time I can actually say that.
I won't even give you crickets for
that. Okay, so the situation is she sat at his grave. He watched from within the fog.
Jeez, that's pretty dark.
We can change it. She sat at his grave. He watched from within the frog. Are we want to try that, or are we going to refresh?
This is for me, or
no? That's it depends on what.
Oh, I gotcha.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a weekly challenge. I don't know if you.
Yes, on that one.
Are you gonna refresh? Is that gonna be a rule where, or are you just gonna pick the first one? Because when I listen to the, go ahead.
This can be the rule. We get one redo, but we have to take the second one.
Oh,
let's do it that way.
The second one is pretty cool.
That'll make it risky. That'll make it risky.
Because I was telling Carlos, just combine it too.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because then it makes it harder.
Actually, this one actually fits because we always, you always try to work it out. But this one, okay. So the second one is a woman just realizing she was bitten by a zombie and is in the process of becoming one.
Oh, that's a big problem. Okay. And the first one was?
The first one was she sat at his grave. He watched from within the fog.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah,
I like the zombie one, though.
Yeah, you could combine it too, but the zombie one, second one was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm in on the second one.
The other guy could be watching and turn into a zombie. All
right. So that's it, y'all. A woman just realizing that she was bitten by a zombie and is in the process of becoming one. Here, Dave, get to work. Start drawing, boy. All right. So that is our weekly prompt.
Sweet.
So as I record that, I wanted to talk about something real quick. Something big happened. Okay, so it seems like everything is starting to move into VR, right?
Yep.
One of the big things, one of the big announcements that happened earlier today, that is a big move into the VR realm, is Apple is having a huge event September 12th, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And it will be held at the brand new Steve Jobs Theater, the first ever event.
Is that on a new campus, or where is that at?
Yeah, that's at the new donut. Yeah.
Are they almost done? Are they done with it?
Spaceship. I think they're done enough. I've been watching videos and stuff, and they got trees, they got grass down and everything. There's people working. There's people working in the building now. So.
Oh, okay.
And
you think Apple's going to announce a headset?
I think Apple's going to announce the new phone.
Oh, okay, it's the phone thing. Okay.
And they have other things that people are talking about. Rumor mill has it that there's going to be a new Apple TV, the new phone, iPads, and stuff like that. So one of the big things that they did the last presentation that they had is they were showing, and we talked about this briefly on the show, where if you hold up your iPad, you're basically interacting in a VR world. And so instead of that big headset like Microsoft has, this is actually, they're doing all the VR through the iPad.
Okay, so yeah, it's a little bit different. That's AR. So what they showed at the last one was AR, which is AR Kit, which is Apple's AR platform, which we started using at work as soon as it came out, because they made it available for all developers. And it works pretty good. There's a lot of different AR platforms out there, right now. But it's interesting that Apple came out with one, and it's been working pretty good so far. It holds it pretty well. We put we did a demo where we had a little animated character of SpongeBob, and then had him so it sits right up on the table, and he's dancing or whatever. And you can move it, and it's kind of cool how the camera scans the area. And the longer you let it scan, the more tracking that it holds. So if you look away, right, but then come back, SpongeBob is still sitting there. So that's the cool thing about AR Kit. And we started melding it with other kits and stuff like that, using it through Unity and stuff like that. So it should be interesting. It should be cool. They were saying, because we were talking about this at work, they were saying that the camera on the new iPhone may be specially enhanced to work with the kit.
I was wondering that because I have the new one, and I was looking at it, and I noticed it actually has 2 lenses. And I know right now they're just using that for that kind of gimmicky depth portrait mode. But as soon as I saw 2 lenses, I was like, oh boy, here we go with tracking and 3D and all that.
Yeah, they'll bust AR Kit wide open if they do that. And then also this week, Google announced their new AR platform for the Google phones, or I should say the Android phones, which was really nice too. And they have it for they had on the website, they had it for all their different platforms. So it was Unity, Unreal, and then the phone stuff. So that was interesting. And that one was called what are they calling it? AR Core. Google's one is called AR Core, which is pretty interesting too. So they're jumping on it because they were Apple probably show AR Kit with Unreal and stuff like that, and Peter Jackson's company that did that little scene, and Google probably was yo, we gotta come out. So they just showed it this week. Everything looks pretty good so far, but we'll see how it works, and how it works with all the other platforms, So it should be interesting. It's called AR Core. Look it up.
AR Core. And one of the other things that happened this week that I thought was really cool, because they kind of announced it on this very show. The makers, the team behind Brother Man Comics, had a fan base. I think this is how they described this situation. They had a group of fans that read the comic books and all the books and that they have and everything with Brother Man and Duke Denham, and they built a map according to the stories that they were telling. And then this week they had this big Brother Man art showcase,
Oh yeah,
and they were showing the Brother Man world in VR.
Oh,
guys,
that's cool.
You guys see that yet?
No, I did not see that.
That's pretty cool.
If you're listening on iTunes or whatever, go to bigcitymap.com and you'll see what we're talking about. Dawood Anyabuile is the artist, and he was working together with this team, and I can't remember the name of the university that was helping them build this, but
360
Emory Libraries and Information Technology, emory.edu. Anyway, go to bigcitymap.com and you'll get the lowdown. And yeah, so Dawood is the artist, Brian McGee is the colorist, and Guy Sims is the writer. And so this team of technology folks put together this virtual world. It's Dawood's drawings, and they dropped them into Unity, and you can spin around in the world and see. It's
the 360 panorama.
So cool. Yeah, you can't walk through it yet, but I'm sure they're going to be working on that.
Yeah. So these are 360 ones. So 360 panoramics are like Google Cardboard or any of those things. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that they stitched it all together. And shout out to Dawood because showing off the drawing skills on how he had to draw this, so it was seamless. It's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
this is that big thing they were like saying it's coming. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just really neat, and they have the map of Big City there that you can see, and it looks like they have like the train.
Mm-hmm. They got the subway station,
the subway system.
Subway map,
yeah, that's cool. I wonder how they what they did to choose the parts they wanted to show. That's kind of cool because Big City has so many different boroughs and stuff.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. I was watching that and I was like, okay, if the Brother Man team couldn't get any cooler, they just did.
Oh, legit though.
So yeah, you guys
did a 3D one too.
Go check that out and let us know what you guys think. Hey Matt, are you getting into VR, AR, any of that stuff lately?
Yeah, actually, Chris Tadine was the first one to introduce me to Substance Painter because he was kind of telling me he's the guy. I wouldn't say I'm trying to think of a better analogy than a canary in the coal mine or something, but he's the guy that when a new technology comes around the corner, he's like, check this out, and he's already got it mastered, and I'm like, what is this? I was like, so he's just kind of showing this to me. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And what's interesting, I was developing a film, and I was always thinking, like, man, they need to make a program that allows you to paint such things as like metalness, diffuse, all this at once. Like you got 5 paintbrushes in your hand for 5 different maps. And so I started digging into it, and this is about the time I started my website, which is vfxforfilmmakers.com, because I saw a huge open door. Both people that are getting into VR, but filmmakers as well. And I just thought, you got a million websites on filmmakers, but it seems like that gap between filmmakers and VFX is still there. So I'm trying to bridge that gap by introducing a more simplistic, layman's terms way of getting filmmakers eased into VFX. But as we all know, the technicalities of VFX are just kind of overwhelming. So when you always see these websites, when you got these filmmaker type websites and they're talking about VFX, they sort of like look at it from outside and go, no, there's this thing called tracking, and there's and it's I'm trying really hard to make training videos, basically, that get people introduced to Nuke. I got a lot of free training on YouTube, and all that. And one of the things I did was I tried to get the first sort of touch coming back to VR, was through making tutorials that are more stuffed full of getting people started in VR, virtual reality, because the actual program itself, Substance Painter, Substance Designer, these are great programs to get people excited and getting really quick things produced and pushed into, say, Unreal 4. So I came from a game background. I used to be a character artist, Cinemax character artist for Neatherealm Studios in Chicago. So that's my first sort of touch into, Unreal 4. We weren't doing any VR at the time, but I did have the Unreal. So it's weird to come back to Unreal after going into teaching, getting into compositing through Nuke and working for commercials on Nuke, but then coming back to see how the compositors that, say, out here in Chicago, the Mill and Framestore, are diving back into using even VR for live, because I got a couple students that work at the Mill and so forth in the studios, and how they're using VR to previs when they're on set filming stuff. Specifically the Mill, they were kind of talking about how they were using their new, I forgot the name of the car that they have, their own custom car.
The car rig, the camera rig for the car.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but it's a customizable chassis that they use, and they use VR via tracking to frame up the shot when they're out there, as well as get like almost close to a really high quality look to it, so they can kind of look at it and go, okay, Blackbird. Yeah, I mean, I've been diving into VR since I got the HTC Vive. I was working on a couple commercials for Capital One commercial with Sam Jackson, and I met some amazing guys that worked on Star Wars, and they were, because Chicago, I describe Chicago as the town where between LA and New York, you can fly over. It's like this deserted island. Yeah. And we're always like, come down, and thankfully we've had the Framestore, Method, the Mill, all these studios come out here. So we're starting to we're building up user group meetups out here. Chris is handling the Houdini meetup. I do the organization for the Foundry user group meetup. So we usually meet at the Mill, and we also do. We're going to be having a meetup hopefully soon with at Framestore with their new studio that they just opened up in Chicago. So
is that just real quick? Is that meetup just if you go to meetup.com, or do you guys actually have like a formal title to the group?
We were on. I'm trying to remember it because it's all through the guys at. It's a combination of Synesys, which is like a local seller. They of products out here, like Nuke and so forth, resellers. They fund us, and we go through meetup.com, but the Foundry usually holds it up. So yeah, if you go to meetup.com, I believe there is a Chicago user group meetup that you can log into and get affiliated with. But the VR and the AR stuff was awesome. So one of the Substance Painter tutorial that I did was getting you straight from modeling in Maya, getting it textured inside of Substance Painter, and then getting it right into level setup in Unreal 4. And it's been a lot of fun just getting into VR. If you guys are ever on Rec Room, I don't know if you guys played it at all. So it's one of the best games in there. It's really great to get in there. There's a lot of developers in there now, and we play a lot of shoot 'em up. So if you can find me, M. Skonicki, in there if you see me shooting away.
Nice.
But it's really great. I've been meeting a lot of people, talking to a lot of people. I got a friend from Adidas, I think, out in your neck of the woods. Are you in San Francisco, Carlos?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I think Adidas, I'm not sure. I think that's in Portland. I could be wrong. But you're right. Everyone's using augmented reality, virtual reality, and so forth. But they're really jumping on like Substance Painter.
So is that the Rec Room, is that it? Because I haven't been on that one yet. Does that have a chat room connected to it too? Or
not really. I mean, it's one of the top games it's a very low poly type game. But it's a lot of fun. You play paintball is what you usually play in there, and it's so much fun. Is that for the Vive? It's for Vive and for the Rift. Yeah.
Okay. And now with Unreal, now the tools in terms of like how fast, if you have the Vive or you have the Rift hook connected to the same computer, it's smart enough now to pick up the headset right away. So you can pick up the stuff that you're making in Substance and these other programs and see it right away. Because before, the pain point, even 2-3 years ago when I first started, as it was heating up, was trying to get all those headsets, even the developer versions, all to work. Sometimes they wouldn't work, sometimes you wouldn't see them. But they've all done a really good job now to kind of make it plug and play. Even so if you have the Oculus headset and you have Unity or you have Unreal, you have one of these real-time programs to use, it's plug and play. So if you get your stuff in, you can instantly throw the headset on for VR and look at it. So yeah, it's cool.
So I wanted to go back real quick and talk about this Chris guy that you mentioned earlier.
We call him Yoda.
Yeah, we've talked to quite a few people on this show actually that have crossed paths with Chris. Who is Chris? Why does he matter? Should we care?
I think Chris came in as I don't know if he was there before me or whatever. I was teaching at Columbia College in Chicago. And then I switched over. Tribeca offered me a full-time job, so I went there. And then I believe Chris was teaching part-time classes.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely had a fire for, just student excitement. Usually part-time teachers are very, I'm here, I'm out of here, I'm going doing my own thing,
Mm-hmm.
But Chris was always really dedicated to the students and always had a fire. And you don't see that too often with part-time teachers. And then he came eventually on full-time. And it's been really awesome just to work with them. We've worked on a couple feature films. The students have worked on a couple feature films. And our school, Tribeca, thanks to Chris and his collaboration and reaching out to these filmmakers in Chicago, we'll be working with, really medium-sized budget feature films based out of Chicago with VFX. And a lot of those films that he brought in helped our students go off and work on. I mean, we now have our fingers as our students who graduated now in like most of the major studios that are in Chicago, and we have students now that are now working at Singapore ILM.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on Ready Player One and all that. So a lot of it was through Chris's mentorship as well as reaching out to different producers and directors. And I was always the one to push back and say, I don't know about a feature film. Because a lot of these studios, probably specifically yours, Carlos, is always asking us, try to get these kids into production. So to this day, we do a lot of collaboration. We're just working with this one guy from LA right now, which is through the Lionsgate, and it's called stand back. It's called Navy SEALs versus Aliens, the sequel to Navy SEALs versus Zombies.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my lady that I'm going to be drawing is a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, so it's a feature film being done by Lionsgate, and we're developing we just finished it actually. We're like polishing up right now, but the kids got to develop the alien, rig it up, basically get it all set up and rendered in a small proof of concept. And the determination will be an increased budget of $250,000 for the film itself, which is shooting one day after Thanksgiving, to get the CG budget for this. So it's really cool because we find that we do these projects, collaborations, and there's small little pieces, and they're usually either non-for-profit films, so we don't get in trouble. Like, you're slave laboring these kids,
Right.
We don't want to turn into, Stan Winston. What was that studio in Florida that got in trouble?
Yeah, there was a big.
Was it Stan Winston Studios, Florida, or something? I'm trying to remember what it was.
I don't know if it's Stan Winston. I do faintly remember what you're talking about. They were like,
wasn't going through Digital Domain try to start a studio out there?
Maybe it was Digital Domain. It was a school, and they were working on a movie like
what's it, Digital?
Green Lantern or something, and they got some severe trouble for that. So a lot of the films that we worked on are non-for-profit films and so forth, but they have some heavy CG.
Yeah.
And it's just
the Green Lantern one was definitely digital domain, but I think I want to say No Man got in a little bit of trouble for it too.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
I don't remember.
Probably to backtrack though on this though a little bit. Matt, why don't you I know so we know that now that Matt works at Tribeca Flashpoint in Chicago, VFX school, full-time teacher there, instructor there.
Actually, I'm a part-time instructor now.
Are you part-time now? Oh, did you? So you're going back to freelance? You're doing freelance then? I'm
yeah, I kind of had to get. You know, when you become a teacher, I think my the God-given gift of just being a teacher is probably what I do the best. Getting what I like to say is getting the car started. I don't think I'm you know, Mario Andretti or anything like that, but just like, here's the car, here's how you get it started, jump in, go at it. And that's a lot of what my training is getting everybody in the door. And I've taught a lot of advanced classes at Digital Tutors as well, which is now a plural site. So just getting people getting in the problem is I noticed, because I go through Effects PhD and all these websites, and the same thing I see is, as far as instruction wise, you got these incredibly talented artists, but they have very tough accents to follow, and they kind of stutter a lot, and they kind of like meander a lot. And I always say this with the guys at the plural site, Digital Tutors, so you guys need to like have these experts do the tutorials, and then you need like a team of really good speakers you know, get to the point.
Yeah,
and say redo what this guy did, but give him full credit that he was the one that did the tutorial.
Yeah, just have somebody else do it on behalf. That's
So I'm trying to bridge that gap and put it together. And I'm even hopefully in the future I'll have Chris come on board for my my website to do some extra training too. But he's actually done a couple of collaborations with Digital Tutors, trying to get there, because he also teaches for, I forgot the other website that he works teaches for. It's a famous one.
YouTube.
No.
No, not YouTube. Okay.
The guy who, oh gosh, he's gonna kill me if he's watching me right now. Text it in, Chris. It's my brain's turning blank.
Yeah.
But the guy who owned the website just recently passed. I forgot.
Oh. I don't remember.
His name was Chris.
Hey Matt, why don't you talk about how you I think Flashpoint is like set up a little differently for you guys to be able to do these help out in these non-for-profit films.
Well,
how's the structure of the program in terms of that?
Well, we got a 2-year and we got a 4-year. But you know, ultimately classes are classes, and you guys have been through, you know,
right,
for, you know, for-profit or non-for-profit schools, and we Chris and I found that they're just, in every class you got the slackers and you got the ones that are dedicated.
Right.
So that's how we did. What we had planned was called a cinema effects workshop course, and from this was the genesis of the students that really went off and were successful and did a great job. And they were the ones that committed the 2-hour lunch break that we had in between classes. We have a 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock class, and then we have a 2 to 5 o'clock class. And between that is this 2-hour lunch. And we thought, well, let's have a club we start where we work on real films. It's optional. You don't have to be a part of it, and we are going to be picky. If you don't do your work, we're going to boot you out. You know. And so we dedicate this 2 hours to working on a series of feature films, everything from cleanup and compositing to giant dragons coming down and fight. And we were working on some really cool independent films. One of which is Thrill Ride, which is actually in theaters right now. This was crazy. This director had like his son had passed of brain cancer, and his son wrote this script, a very heavy fantasy film, and we thought it'd be a great idea to have this film, you know, to take part of this, because it was a non-for-profit film. We wouldn't get in trouble, you know. And we basically he shot this at a studio in Chicago. It starred the blonde lady from Third Rock from the Sun, Kristen
Wiig.
Kristen, I don't know, anyway, and also starred Lucas Zuman, who at the time he was a nobody. Now he's starring in movies that are up for the Academy Award right now. So he was just kind of this kid that we knew, and he was the star of the movie. So it's going around right now. We just won Gen Con best film or whatever for it. But it was great. I mean, it scared the daylights out of the students. It was production, like what all the studios are looking for. But, you know, you had to pull your weight or we'd boot you out. And you weren't being pulled behind by students that didn't want to do anything. You know what I mean? It's hard to, the balance is very hard there when you have a selective enrollment versus a, you know, open enrollment school, because you get those kids that come in and you try to, as fast as you can, you know, politely say, this is not for you. You need to, it's time to go. And at the same time, you've got the pressure of the school kind of, and I don't think Tribeca does this at all, but most schools will do this, where it's kind of like, well, you know, we got to keep the heat on, you know, and you know, so it's a weird balance. I think, you know, when you look at really successful schools like Noman and Vancouver, that selective enrollment really plays a huge part. And to get there, obviously, is you got to have a name for yourself. So we're trying to build that.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is like the spearhead here, kind of getting that going.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
What's interesting is when we talked about this a little bit before the show, but Chris was my teacher, and then Charlie's teacher, and then Jack's teacher, and now he's working with you. And it's just been a lot of fun to see him, like, he's got this passion for teaching that it's undeniable. So if he likes working with you, that means a lot.
I think he's forced to work with me.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that.
I wouldn't recommend though either, because like even when I came to the school, he was like you're like the first person he brought me to. So I think Chris has he picks really good people, you know, when he sees something in somebody, you know, because not too many people like to just veg out on talking about, you know, different things, 3D stuff or stuff like that, you know, especially when you were talking about, you know, part-time teachers. And back when I taught for 4 or 5 years, you know, at a college, that was like exactly what happened. You know, you have the ones that are like in and out, or you have the ones that are like double dipping all over the city, you know, teaching over at Columbia, teaching over here, teaching at AI, teaching over at DePaul,
making a book.
And you could tell, making a book, right? And you could tell that all their syllabuses are double dipping everywhere else, you know, so that's not really, it's not really good for the student. But I was always of the notion of like, for profit or not, I'm just gonna fail you if you don't do good, you know, and then worry about the consequences later. But I never feared. I never feared consequences. Luckily, I had a really good program chair above me, and then even when he wasn't there, I built a reputation enough where it was good enough. And I think the students see that, you know. So if they see that you're like real, and you want the best for them, and you're not going to sugarcoat it for them, it helps them in the long run, you know.
It helps them, but there's still those people there that are. They're 1 year in and they're like, I don't know, because I'm constantly scaring my students and being like, okay, one of my old students who actually went to AI was Dave Lesperance. He's and he's he's an environment artist, and he's absolutely amazing. I think he's working at Volvo or something right now.
Yeah,
but he is. You know, I always play the video of him through the Linda video. It's a great video if you guys ever check it out. It's a 6-minute video talking about his workflow and how he talks about passion projects, and how if you're in school and you don't have a passion project off the side where you're sort of, because Dave, you know, I use him because he's like, he went off and was like, well, became a rock star working at Blizzard and so forth. And I went and visited his house once, his apartment in Chicago while he was a student, and just, he had, I call it the digital meth lab. He had like 4 computers in his house, and different computers in the different corners of his house. Like, over here, I'm doing this. I'm rendering this out, you know, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, this is crazy. I'm like, what is your passion project at home? What are you getting into? So you got a lot of kids standing there not wanting to admit that this is not what they want to do, but they don't want to upset their parents because they've already gone 1 year in.
Mm-hmm.
But I still scare them out if I can. Scare them to make them
transfer, buddy. Yeah.
And that's the motto of our school, which is passion drives success. And if you don't have a passion, get out. You know,
if you don't want to work on stuff outside of your homework, you're in the wrong. Yeah. You're in the wrong.
We talk about that. We talk about that on the show all the time. Yeah. Where even if you quote unquote made it, just keeping up your skills is not enough. Like, people like to see constant movement and a constant evolution in your work. Mm-hmm. And it only helps you get better faster.
Yeah.
And stay on top of the game. And again, at the end of the day, it's yours. You get to make the decisions. It makes your resume look that much better.
Yeah, because it sees that you really like what you do, and like you really do this instead of just like everybody else. You know, sets you apart a little bit. Which is the one thing. Even when we talk about games, it's the one thing that like was the hardest part back when I was working in the game industry, was like, I feel like game artists, which makes David so awesome, is they get complacent really, really quickly because you get used to being stringent upon, you can only use this version of the software, this version of this is here, because everything works perfectly in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. You don't want to introduce new things, because if you introduce new things in the middle of a project or at the beginning of one, potentially it won't work with the engine or the skill sets that we have there. And that's why I love that the industry is changing. When like Substance came out, right? And like but it was surprising how long it took for it to like get acquainted by all the different artists, you know, because then artists used to always say, "Ooh, I gotta look at that in my spare time, or I gotta look at that when I get a chance." I'm like, you should be like pushing for this at your studio daily. You shouldn't be just like taking 2 years to like finally open up Substance and look at it. Now you look at it now.
What I like to do is find a new program and just dive into it. And I don't know if it's just a competition or something, but I like being the first one to make an actual like really comprehensive tutorial on it. And like Substance Painter, there's only like 2 tutorials on Gnomon. There's a ton of YouTube material.
Yeah.
But I thought I kind of grabbed all that information and I threw together a full pipeline for that, so that everybody can look at it and go, okay, here's how you take the model, here's how you make the high res, low res, here's how you bring it in. Because a lot of what Algorithmic will go over in their YouTube channel, they'll kind of skip over stuff, you know. And also everything they do is not based off reference in those tutorials. So I'm like, here's a reference image, and that's when I modeled the metro station.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's the metro station. Okay, here's the pillars, real simple ground. We're gonna go through this step by step and get you even all the way to a game engine.
Yeah.
So I've been getting a lot of really good feedback in regards to it. A lot of people are really digging it. So I'm again trying to, you know, we don't know where compositing is going. Is it going to go real time eventually? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's very strange.
You know, you got the Enterprise edition of Unreal coming out, so they're talking about there's another on the roadmap of like, you know, the integration of being able to do passes. You know. So I think it's only a matter of time. And I know the mill from talking to the tech artists over at the mill when they released that 3D or that real-time commercial that they did for Buick, was it? Whatever the car commercial they did in Unreal with the mill. They were talking about, that's the first thing they asked for. They asked for some type of integration with Nuke. So whatever they worked out with them, I'm sure they're packaging that into something that will be in the regular build, you know. And the Enterprise Edition beta just came out, and that's the version of Unreal. If you guys don't know what Unreal Enterprise Edition is, they're calling it something else now. I'll look it up so that they can add it to the show notes. But they're calling it the version of Unreal that you would use pretty much for like a studio.
If you had money.
No, because Unreal is free.
Oh.
Unreal is free in the production version. Yeah.
The Enterprise?
Yeah. It'll be free
up until you start making money.
Yeah, it's up until you start making money, but it's a tiered thing. So even you can still use it, and like the cap is like pretty high. So all the mid-level studios and smaller studios or whatever, you might not even hit that cap even when you go commercial with the whatever your product is. So it's the one thing that, you know, Unreal has on Unity. Even though Unity has a free version and stuff like that, it's a little bit different. Their thing is a little bit different when you get into reading what their agreement is. But that version, the Enterprise Edition of Unreal, is for those studios like mine, like the experiential studios, the architectural rendering studios, because they figured out a way to take, you know, like right now I'm working on a lot of CAD models that have to get into like Unity, and like that's ridiculous. It's stupid to do. So like you take a 7, 8, 9 million or whatever, like car part or whatever that you're trying to show off or whatever from you know, AutoCAD or whatever. Unreal has come up with this new file structure that'll allow you to import that into Unreal really easily, and then give you all these settings to like tweak it. So now if you're like Ford and you want to make a cool commercial or want to make a cool VR experience, or if you Nike, right? Because I worked with like Under Armour last year when we got a bunch of their stuff. If you working with Nike and you have a shoe and you have the, like, you know, the model of it or the scan of it, you're able to take that scan, use this new file format that Unreal's developed, which I'll look it up so you guys know what it is, and then import that stuff into Unreal. So remember, if you get it into the engine, you can do it in VR or you can get it into AR. So it's like they're coming up with these tools. Unity is doing the same thing, but on a different spectrum. You know, Unity's partnering with Otoy, which is the guys who make the Octane renderer. So later this year, Unity and the Octane renderer, which is a third-party renderer like V-Ray or Arnold or whatever, will be packaged with Unity for free. So if you have Unity, you can do it. And then when you're using Octane in Unity, it's now not necessarily a game engine anymore. It's a real-time tool, right? So all your models and stuff are now look just like it if you were rendering it out of Cinema 4D or Maya or Max. They'll look exactly the same because you're re-rendering with Octane.
I think the hint to me that we were going real time was when I did a tutorial on Redshift, and I just realized, I'm like, wow, this is GPU based rendering, and you know, and I was using my 1080 graphics card, and I was like, this is like real time. It's like, it's happening so quick. I mean, and I was like, well, what's next? Okay, real time rendering, you know.
Which I'm reading too, that like, and Redshift is an awesome renderer, by the way, but which I'm reading that like, because Otoy has been doing so much with like getting the Octane one, they're supposed to be having that same plugin for Unreal, that they've kind of neglected a little bit, you know, the VFX and the roots a little bit, because, you know, Redshift in the last, I would say 6-7 months is like, did this, you know, has passed them up because it's been 2-3 years since a major release. And like a lot of studios, I was listening to another podcast for motion graphics and Cinema 4D, and they're talking about how all these people are like moving over. Chad Ashley wrote a big, which was on the show. He wrote a big article on Motionographer about the render wars and how crazy rendering is right now with all the different engines and stuff like that, and which one you should be getting. Our guys over at CGCookie.com with Blender. There's another.
Just called. He said, "How dare you?
I dare you!" Yeah, CG Cookie, the training site that does all the Blender stuff. You know, that free software has a really good renderer, which is no one really gives credit to, but has a really good CPU and GPU based renderer called Cycles. The motion graphics industry is taking that and coupled that with since it's open source, we keep forgetting it's open source means that anybody can take and do whatever they want with it. They've taken it and taken the renderer out of Blender and put Cycles renderer in Cinema 4D. So now there's a plugin that fully integrates Cycles in Cinema 4D called Cycles 4D, and then it's like that works really good with X Particles. So if you know what X Particles is with Cinema 4D, it's a really good particle package. Does all this stuff. So it's like, and that's GPU based and CPU based. So that whole like instant gratification, you know, like real time. It's a really cool time. And as you can see, Really liking all this 3D talk. But cool. Yeah. That's great.
Nerding out. Charles nerding out.
You know,
Yeah.
I missed last week, so
I love it.
to come back. It's weird when I watch a show that wasn't here. I'm like sitting on the train or whatever, like trying to respond to you guys. Because you guys are going back and forth with the whole what should this week's prompt be? And I was like, just combine the two. They'd be perfect. Just combine. So finally, so whatever. But yeah, I'm glad I'm back.
So now you can, in real time.
So then I go to Facebook and just have to talk to you guys and wait for the response. No, but it's cool. Like, yeah, it's a cool time though. You know, a lot of cool stuff coming up.
So I want to go to the early beginnings of Matt. At what point in your life did you know that you wanted to get into VFX?
You know, I think I'm one of those, you know, this sucker generation that was like Jurassic Park, you know, because I'm about to hit 40 in 1 week. So, you know,
Happy pre-birthday.
Yeah.
We should have waited for next week to have you on the show.
Yeah.
For your birthday, you get to be here with us.
But yeah, I just, you know, you got into, I think it was a filmmaking. So I went to Columbia for art direction degree in Chicago, Columbia College, which is a really good school. It's the biggest film school in the world. Most of major cinematographers. It's a big cinematography school. So I went there, got out of that, and I just, you know, I think I was just one of them suckers that got suckered into a film school, you know, and I'm just like, oh crap, I'm back in retail again. What's going on here, you know? And I'm looking around, going, kind of going, oh, and I just kept, my passion kept going. I mean, I kept working, but man, I started getting into how do I incorporate VFX into CG, or, you know, how do I take CG and bring it into, because, you know, I love all these VFX movies that I grew up with. How do I do that? So Buju was the first 3D tracking program that came out. I started making little shorts. Back then we had them crappy, you know, 720 by 480 or, you know, cameras. I was doing tracking with Buju back then. Buju, it would take an hour and a half to track one shot, and then you'd look at it and go, oh, the tracking's off, re-render it, you know. So then from there, I got to, you know, you're always just looking for an in anywhere basically at that point. So my barber, you know, it was funny because I was bagging groceries at a pathetic age in my late 20s. It was so like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I had a barber who's still my friend today, and she was always telling me, I got my friend, his name's John McClenahan, and he's the head of cinematics at the time Midway Games. Eventually got bought out to Neatherealm Studios or whatever, changed over to Neatherealm. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do that, I guess, you know. So they dropped me in as an intern. I worked on about a couple of, it was right as we were going from next gen to next gen. And they were hiring a whole bunch of extra people there. So I got to touch a little old gen and then immediately jump into Unreal 3 next gen. And back then we had no tool sets for that thing. That thing was like bare bones. We were waiting for things to work. You know, we're like, you guys
modified the Unreal 3 engine. It was like crazy.
Yeah. So after that, I think I got about 12 titles behind my belt, mostly Mortal Kombat Series. Moved up to rigging, character setup artist, character technical artist, and then Cinemax character technical artist. And then I left and went to teach. Eventually went to Tribeca. And then, you know, you start to become old school, you know, where it's like you do keep up on the technologies, but there's nothing like production. That wakes you up, and you just feel like such a kid. You feel like you're almost still at the level of a student. So I jumped back into freelance via new compositing because I started to find my passion moving towards compositing. I was just really digging it. I still like the whole live action element, tracking and putting in a live action element. But compositing really started to become my passion. And then eventually I started doing some television commercials. So there's like, I did 3 TV spots with Spike Lee. And I forgot the name of the cinematographer, but he was the guy he's the next cinematographer for the next Star Wars movie. But we did 3 spots.
Tell me you didn't do anything for Chirac, please.
No.
Thank you, God.
You know, I can't. I personally just don't like that director too much. It was odd because I've always, as a filmmaker, I'm like, I can't stand Spike Lee. And then like the first project I get to work on, like Spike Lee, I'm like, oh,
be careful what you're hating on.
It was a great collaboration. It was through Filmworkers in Chicago, and these guys are just awesome. They flew out, surprisingly, Chicago, and this is what I just had an interview with Frame Store over there, who just set up shop, and I knew something that I didn't think they didn't figure out. Is I was hired on to Frame Store. They had me booked, and then they called us last minute and said, we don't have enough people in Chicago, so we're moving this gig, whatever the gig was, to New York and LA office. And I always said this about Chicago, there's just not enough homegrown compositor / VFX CG people in Chicago that really know what they're doing, because Chicago is still where you could technically have, you know, there are full-timers, but it's a small group of people to really start to build up the experience and have all this extra competition and people there. So we had to fly out all of our compositors from LA. So I work with a couple of really awesome compositors. Rob Williams, who is, I think he's working on, these guys have worked on like 10, 15 years experience in compositing, and I had not done one commercial yet in compositing. So I got these guys that just got off Star Wars Episode 7, and I was just 3 compositors, me and these 2 guys that had 10 years of experience, and these guys just were so awesome. Brad Moore's another one of them, and they just both poured into me and just taught me like all this stuff I did not know. And it was a reminder that school needs to be in a production mindset, but you need to be around that environment, because it's kind of sad. And we try to, me and Chris, as much as possible, bring that element of production, that kind of like, okay, get it done, you know, and figure it out and Google it if you have a problem, you know, by any means necessary, get the shot out. And I think that really pushed our students to have that production mindset, because I think when he visited your studio, that's the feedback you guys gave him. Was that that, hey, we need to see production experience. So we do what we can within the world of an open enrollment where you can get any joker in there, you know, and you're trying to, you know, get the kids that really want to do it, you know, in the midst. So it's a weird balance, you know.
That's the one thing you got to hammer on by any means necessary. Like, you know, we joke about like me missing the show last week, but like the last 2 weeks, I was like that dude on Google, like trying to figure out how to make this thing work, you know, and like the added pressure of the new position, stuff like that. But I was like, you know, you can do it a simple way and it'll work and it'll be a lot less stressful. Or I can keep pushing this way that I want to do it, and I know it's gonna look way better. And that's the one thing that like I had to try to. We gotta keep everyone that does teaching or does teaching online, even if you're teaching online, you can do it one way that looks good, but try to push it, you know, 90 meters farther so it looks even better, you know.
And that was my beef with digital tutors, because I said to them, I go, you guys have, and right now they're a plural site, and I no longer work for these guys, but there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, and whether or not they have the talent to show it off, they're continuing to teach these really basic courses that are so basic. And it's like, and I've always, the library that I kind of pushed as much as I could when I taught on there was really advanced stuff, you know, and they were just like, you know, and right now they have so many, just so many you know, hoops you got to jump through to finally get it. They have all these like people like watchdogging you, and you have to, you know, like, make sure you have this and this and say this. It's like no artist has time for this. No full-time artist has time to sit here and deal with this little bit of money you want to give him and stretch out this lesson that's going to take him 3-4 months to produce. And that's where I kind of like, that's when that we kind of parted and said, okay, that's that. You know, I'm going to go in business for myself. So I opened up VFXforFilm.com, and it's been hugely successful. We've branched off to CG. I don't know if you ever guys been to CG Circuit. A great website. Do a lot of Houdini training. I post through that, and that's another nice website for people that want to post their stuff. And you only get 70% of the cut, and the guy on the website gets 30%. But it's a good, because they're doing their advertising. You don't have time to advertise. You know, you do. They do it for you. There's amazing Houdini training on that website.
You got to push that Houdini training. That's that one that like.
And Chris,
like that
Chris is like,
terms. That's good.
He's the Houdini expert.
It's a unicorn.
Just today, Chris, this is the amazing thing about Chris today. I was like, Chris, I just got a freelance gig for a feature film where it's the plagues of Egypt, and I need locusts flying through and dividing like this. And he's like, oh, hold on. And he's just today,
like
he got like a 10-minute video. Here, this is how you do it. And
he'll walk away from you and be like, hold on, and like he'll come back like later. Yeah, you know, so I was thinking about what you said the other day. Yeah, check this out.
Done.
It's good. It's Yoda.
And not only has he done it in VFX, but he's like modeled it in clay.
Yo, first just to get the form, he'll say something like, "I just wanted to see how this is, in you know, in real life, and feel it, and tactile, you know, get it." And then he'll fix it, and then he'll model it, right?
That's what we had lacking at Tribeca. We didn't have the traditional fundamentals because it was such an in-out school 2 years. So he brought in some amazing artists to bring that back, and that foundation is what really helped the put together and sculpt the you know, our final students that popped out really had a good artistic background as well as, you know, just technical.
That was the one thing that Chris was always really good at, you know. Even his 3D models and stuff like that look like sculptures, you know, like he fully, because he was a fully an XSI dude at a school that only taught Max. And the only reason why there was XSI on the computer is probably because Chris wanted it on the computers. So somehow I got built into the full loadout of all the computers. So you open it up and be like, I don't know what this is, but he'd whip out some crazy cool model in like an hour and a half or so.
Chris is the optimist, I'm the pessimist at the school.
Yeah.
Like, ow, you know.
No,
he just keeps coming back. I really think we should work on this. I'm like, oh, all right.
You should keep pushing that though, because Chris and a lot of other people, and we've talked about it on the show, of just taking your stuff, you know, farther. You know, learning how to work through a problem. It gets real. It took me 2 weeks to figure out the problem I was trying to figure out, and I missed the show last week because of it. But like, boy, did it feel good about 12 o'clock last night, you know, 11 o'clock last night at work when we got it to work, you know, and it was perfect. And the implications of this whole thing, you know, is like pretty big in terms of like what you can do, you know, and what you can import into a game engine or a real-time engine, you know. Being able to now, I have a pipeline now where I can take any effect, any point level, vertex level effect, and say you do some kind of crazy cool MoGraph effect in Cinema 4D, or you take particle flow in Max, or you use Mash over in Maya, and it looks amazing, you know, this amazing particle system or X particles. I have a method now where I can take all that, bake it down to an OBJ sequence, and get it into a game engine, and it looks just like it. Like, it's really good. But like teaching that, like, look at forums, like go read the manual, you know, go to the forums of the program you're looking at. Don't just type in Google and say I can't find it, you know. Got to go that extra mile so that you can do that thing. You know, how many times you guys said that?
We had that with a student because today was our last day of class, and you just you get that. I call this like crazy, but I love torturing students, and I don't mean it because I enjoy torturing them. I love to watch them get exhausted and tired, and you know, just kind of like and then push them more, and then they're just like, oh my gosh, you know, and you can see they've basically earned their production experience. Just by their pure exhaustion and frustration.
Yeah. Do they give up, or do they keep pushing?
They keep pushing. Yeah, they keep pushing, but you're just like you're constantly overwhelming them as a teacher, and then they're like, oh my gosh, you know, and you know, so it's been really, really awesome. And we just today, or this last week, we were having a problem with Arnold for Maya, the newest version. They changed over like all these new shaders.
Yep.
The shadow catcher is now the surface catcher or something.
Yeah, they
and I texted them. I said, "This doesn't work," you know, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't work in Maya." And I'm like, "You gonna fix it?" So that's solid angle, you know, for you. Like, I'm like,
sorry, that's all they say.
We have an idea. We're actually going to shoot this next semester if we can. We've been two ideas. One, we wanted to film this video that would be good for all intro students, which is like the School of Hard Luck Cases. So think of an actual working studio, but you have all these slacker students and their excuses, and the suits come in to look at their commercial, and they have every excuse. They're sitting in their chair buying their concert. It's like, Joey, show them the newest clip of the video, And he's just like, well, my dog ate it, every excuse you could think of. And the other thing we want to do was we want to do like a little 3D, like 2-foot tall gnome character for every computer system, the render engine or software. So for instance,
nice.
Arnold would be like a giant, like Arnold Schwarzenegger that'd be coming up to the computer next to it. Mm-hmm. And then the other would be like, like I call it mental delay. Mental ray would be like this crazy guy with eyes going opposite directions. And it's like, this doesn't work. He's like, oh, just re-render it, like kind of torturing the person as he's trying to figure out. Houdini would be an old man with a bunch of tool sets on him. Like, here, everything. Houdini's like everything. All the pieces are there. You got to put it all together,
What's Octane?
You can make like Garbage Pail Kids like that.
Yeah, you just 3D print them, get them out. What will Octane be? What is it like a?
Octane is someone who's
like
hooked
Instagram
on
post.
Caffeine in a big way, just like big red eyes, bloodshot.
Righteous. Taking a selfie because of all the everydays that are posted on Instagram with Octane.
Talk about how important you guys think it is for especially students, but just people in general, to be somewhat active in the community, on the online community specifically. Do you think being active on, say, message boards and ArtStation and stuff like that, do you think that would help people? I wanted to say kids, but there's some grown folks out there doing this too. So being active in on the online community, or even going to the, Next Now always has these meetings and the meetups that you guys are doing, Matt. How important is it to stay active in that community? Do you think it's helpful if someone is trying to find a job at all?
It's connections. Like I said, our user group meetups, had we not had our user group meetups, and we didn't have any in Chicago. Foundry was, again, flying right over Chicago. And we said, I contacted Foundry and said, hey, can you fly some of your guys out for a user group meetup in Chicago? And we started that a couple of, like, I'd say like 5-6 years ago. And they've been coming out every year. And then with these new studios, we've been kind of jumping over to their studio from the school and having the meetups there. And all of my students that have jobs, it's connections. And the other thing is obviously just, the community itself drives the art, when it comes to online resources and so forth. I would like to see a compositing-based resource, like a ZBrush for compositors, or I'm sorry, ZBrush Central for compositors.
Central, yeah, like a poly count.
It's something I haven't seen yet too much, No,
I think it's very important. I think that was, just for me, that was integral while I was teaching, kept me afloat, through meetups and stuff like that. I learned about Substance before I feel like anybody knew about it in Chicago, or even in teaching, because I would say it to people and people were like, what, huh? Because I saw it as a blurb, because it was a tech program that Naughty Dog was testing out. But, Polycount online, Polycount was really big. And then we're using, for the podcast here, we're using Google Hangouts. Well, a lot of the people that I've met online, artists, I started getting a part of a lot of Facebook groups. A lot of Polycount.com had a hangout where you can have up to how many people in here, guys? 12 or 11 or 12 or something like that. So Polycount.com is a famous gaming site for artists, right? Developer site where it's known for like posting your work up and people ripping it to shreds that work in the industry. It's a really good site with it, and it's known for all the wealth of knowledge. Their Wikipedia for like even like Substance or ZBrush rivals that of the actual program site for information. So it's a forum, and they decided to start doing a hangout. So, and they still do these hangouts. So they had the Polycount hangouts. So you would log in, regular night, log in, and then share your screen, and you had to work. Mm-hmm. You started to meet artists. So like I started doing that, around the time my my first kid was born while I was still teaching, and I was doing it so much that I was staying up late, like I usually used to do in the studio. But I was staying up late because I was talking to artists all around the world, you know. And you would see the waves of artists leave. So like around 2 or 3 on a Friday, 3 o'clock in the morning Chicago time, 4 o'clock in the morning Chicago time. All of a sudden you got, you know, people like the Dave Atsy showing up. The Australians would show up. The guys that lived in London would show up. You know, all these guys would show up, Singapore, all these guys would show up because, you know, you really got a sense of, wow, you know, game industry is like worldwide, right? So there's artists just like me all over the world that are like sitting up late on a Friday night modeling in Maya or whatever. So I got into that and I started meeting people. And then I liked the Polycount hangout so much that I started doing it on Facebook. I met Danny Williams, which we've had on the show. He was working at DreamWorks at the time. And then that was my like gateway into meeting a lot of different guys in the film industry. And then we started posting stuff up. So about 3 or 4 years ago, it was more of like somebody posts a link on Friday night, then you try to jump in as soon as possible because you know that link was going to be like filled with people. And you know the people in that room, even if you didn't know everybody, there are going to be some just badass, amazing artists. You're going to level up that night, and then people will get in the room and stay in like all night. And then you would get Facebook people hit you up. Hey, is there any spots in the hangout? You know, or let's start up another one. So ZBrush hangouts came out of that, you know, because all the guys who love ZBrush and like they started doing podcasts and stuff like that. And it was just a way to build a community, you know, online. And from that, I started doing, you know, Cinema 4D hangouts in Chicago. Chris Schmidt and Nick over there at Grayscale Gorilla, they started doing their C4D. They started out with 3 people. I went to one of their first ones and they started having them at these different studios, you know, and it was just their buddies. And then it just kept growing and growing. And even though I didn't use C4D at the time, I wanted to go because I loved the content and I wanted to learn. So you just kept going. And now they're having their like what they call mini conference, which is called Half Res. That's in September. It's coming up, which is really big. Maxon jumped on board. It's being sponsored. People like Beeple and all these other people are flying in, you know, like from just starting a hangout, you know, or from just starting a meetup, you know. So it's very integral to go to these things because then you start to see. So now working at Next Now, when I have the opportunity to have a great space, I want to be integral in like building those same type of communities. So we want to have the Houdini meetup at Next Now. We want to bring Unity back out, Unreal, Adobe. I'm going to try to have a bunch of them, you know, as much as possible. And like, it just harkens back to, you know, in college at AI, we used to be thankful enough where we had a lot of different people start meetups. And Carlos had a meetup back in the day. He can speak to that in a second here. Because it is a great way of like networking without, it's like the easiest form. You know, the hardest thing is leaving your house and going, and that, and you know, because some people need to go with a group.
Chicago.
Yeah, but because some people need a group to go to these things because they, you know, artists can be shy. And I remember many a times where like I just go by myself because I don't even care. I'm that driven to go. You know, so if you have a meetup in your area, I'm sure you do. Go to meetup.com. Go to what's the other major site? Go to Facebook, look for groups and stuff like that, and go. Don't wait for somebody, just go. You know, you'll be happy you did.
So there.
Yeah.
Go.
So,
Be happy.
I don't think I met Jack too much. Jack, I'm just curious. Are you in Chicago?
I'm not. I am currently in LA.
Chicago pillow behind you. I'm like, is that Chicago?
Yeah, well, by way of Chicago, by way of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm currently at DreamWorks Television.
Oh, okay.
We started out on Green Acres.
Yes, I started out on Green Acres, and then with Chris Dedeen, and then I was doing visual effects for a long time before I jumped over to TV.
Yeah, I was talking to compositors about television. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you know, like the timetables of getting things finished." And I'm just like, they kind of like scared me, you know, being these guys that have been in this foreign fighting land called LA. They're like, "Stay away from television." And I'm like, okay.
How long is it? What are the schedules like on TV, Jack? Like, what are they like that?
I mean, it's different for animation because compositing isn't isn't so much. I mean, of course it's important, but it's not kind of the end all be all like it is in visual effects. I mean, because so much of animation comes from the design standpoint and the rendering, modeling, and so it's kind of the progress along the way. So I mean, you get pretty good stuff right out of the renderer, and then compositing is mostly color and putting elements together and stuff. So I mean, for in-house, you probably have a couple days to do a shot. I mean, because teams. I mean, it's of course different from studio to studio, project to project, and depending on budget. But if you've got a team, of like 6 to 8 compositors on an episode, and you're looking at, we're talking about animation, which you have like 300 to 400 shots. I mean, do the math. How many you got to get through, and usually 3 to 4 weeks. Granted, not visual effects based stuff, live action, that's kind of a whole different beast. But you also tend to have far fewer shots. You might have a couple dozen per episode. But yeah, schedules are tight, and I mean, TV, you're generally not always, but generally you're working at a lower resolution, so that saves you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you end up taking, you got to take into account, and this is all stuff that I think is really important for students to learn. You're slave to your budget and you're slave to your timeline, and you want to do the best you can. But it's really easy to get online on all the hater forums and stuff and be like, that CG looked like crap. And it's like, you have no idea, like that studio could have had like, $50,000 to make a massive dragon look amazing. It's gonna look like shit. It's like, you don't really know the circumstances. So I mean, you're really working with what you got, and you always, you're always given this box, and you always want to make it as awesome as possible. So I mean, the major differences aside from timeline is you tend to get a little bit more crafty in TV. You come up with shortcuts and like interesting things that you can kind of skate around and like work with your your limitations. Which I actually really enjoy. I find that because currently I'm sort of supervising both the animation and the compositing department, so I have a lot of interaction with the compositing team, and I do a few little shots myself once in a while, and that's actually one of my favorite parts, is kind of just making, like, you get a base shot from the vendor, from the artist, and then it's like, okay, this is fine, it's passable, but we could make it so much better just with like 20 minutes of my time, And sometimes it's as little as just like cleaning up matte lines or color correcting and stuff that's just not quite working. But it could be like as simple as dropping like a stock footage, like smoke over something, and not to hide it, but just because it needs it, or anything. It's kind of like working quickly, and it kind of becomes this like patchwork game.
And that's something that folks need to realize. One of the things that Jack said that we all need to keep in mind is you don't know who's been touching this project before you got there.
Yeah.
I when I was doing Flash development, it just seems like I was always called in to this is probably going to be a little more dramatic than it really was, but I was always brought in to kind of save the day, right? So you get all this code tossed on your lap, and the first thing you want to do is cuss the people out because it doesn't make any sense. Like, what were you thinking? Why did you do that way? Right? And then you realize exactly what Jack said. Like, maybe these folks only had,
2 days.
Yeah. I've been put in that situation where they're like, so we first quoted 3 months, but we only have 3 weeks. Can you get it done? Right. So then people go through my code and it looks like, 3 weeks worth of code.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I can only imagine, being in a situation where you have a certain amount of money to put towards a certain amount of time to put towards this project, and you need to get it out the door. And you just need to get it out the door. You have bills to pay. Anything, if you have money for 2 weeks and you push this thing for 3 weeks, now you're officially losing money.
Right.
And so you have to get this thing out the door. So you're gonna do 2 weeks worth of jamming, and you hope that it's good. But before, like if you're coming into it like towards the back end and kind of quote unquote saving the day, you have to keep that in mind. Because pooping on the people that were there before you is going to eventually look bad on you, especially when you're presented with the same situation. You have to hurry up and get this thing out. Someone's going to be coming behind you to take a look at at your work. You're going to do your best. You have to try to do your best, but I mean, realistically speaking, you have to get projects out the door. And this is all, this is all part of that be cool so people want to work with you.
Yeah. So they call you back.
Talk that we continue to have on this show, You come in and you poop all over people, and then you expect. I mean, this is a small industry, so you have to be careful what you say.
Yeah. Because they go like, nobody wants a naysayer or a know-it-all or whatever. I don't want to listen to that at 2:00 in the morning or 9:00 in the morning, right? You want somebody that's pleasant and just gets the job done and helps you instead of crucifies you when they find that. The convention was
roll up your sleeves, do your best, get it out the door. Nobody wants to hear your belly aching. Nobody, I'm gonna be stuck in this room with you for 20 hours, and it's hot. And it's hot. The air turns off at 10 o'clock, and now I have to deal with your bitching and complaining.
You just lost a foul
and even though they ordered me dinner, someone else grabbed my dinner and ate it. No, hell no.
Wait, back up. What happened?
This sounds real detailed.
I think you're having a moment right now. Sit back.
When I was in Hollywood, I was working just an obscene amount of hours, and then I went. If you were working late that night, the company would buy you dinner. And so I was downstairs. I was trying to finish up this one thing, and the kitchen was up like a floor or two. So I go upstairs to get my stuff. I had ordered dinner, and I was excited, and whatever it was. And I go up there, and the table was clear. There was nothing but like napkins and like condiment packets.
Somebody ate your food.
They took my food. They took my food.
You just looked around. You just stood there for like a good 10 minutes, and they're like, "Where's that?"
Depending on what producer we had on what game we worked on when we had crunch time, you knew when it was like you'd be almost insulted. They'd get the same pizza place over and over again. Go away.
Same type too.
Same type. Whatever. Reorder it. Yeah.
That was the cool thing.
Nail it off to the side.
That was the cool thing about working in Hollywood. There's like restaurants all over the place. So it was always different. But then you started realizing that you were working way too much when you started realizing, oh man, it's been a week and a half. We're going to have that Thai food again.
I feel like that, but maybe
Chinese after that. And then it's going to be pizza after that.
You got the rotation down. I felt like that though at EA though, but like maybe I was too young. And it was like Chicago food just like wooing me. So it didn't matter because you get the menu that would come around, and we gotta get Josh Way on the podcast because he's probably had something to do with this, and it'd be like somewhere different every day, but it'd be amazing, It'd be like I'm gonna have some of this, and then I'm gonna have some of this. Oh, that looks good. That's steak. Yeah, let's do that too. And then you realize maybe that's why. It's not open anymore.
And you're working a lot of hours when they say, okay, stop billing your lunch to that project, start billing it to this one.
Team lunches was amazing, and then it was amazing. And it was amazing in my pocketbook too, because after a while, I was like, okay,
that's true.
Now I think I have Fridays. I have turn up Fridays where I go out and eat on Fridays and then bring my lunch most of the week. But it's funny when you're younger. I never thought to bring my lunch in because I was like, I'm in Chicago. I just eat out every day. What mom and pop are we going?
And you realize that your check doesn't reach that far.
Yeah, that's the problem. It was still reaching. I was like, young and stupid.
Like kind of going back to working long hours, and all that. And some people can take it, some people can't.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when I had my interview for Frame Store in Chicago. I had Matt Dahl, who was the VFX supervisor for Beauty and the Beast. Incredibly awesome. The whole team there was awesome. But in the interview process, I kind of go, yeah, he looks so jaded. And that's one thing I wanted to address about today's show is this sort of jadedness that kind of creeps in, And it's I once asked this one jaded, I said, why are artists so jaded? And he goes, it's because we don't sleep. I can't look at that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Matt said to me was, I said, I go, yeah, I'm making my own website, selling tutorials. He goes, he just looks at me real jaded and goes, yeah, it seems like the only way to make money in this industry. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, okay, So I don't know.
You guys are on the back end of the project too, huh?
Yeah.
That's everyone wants to be all creative. Everyone up front wants to be all creative, and I've been there too. I used to work at Leo Burnett. I remember the artists would come down and be like, "No, this isn't bouncing quite right." I'm like, "Do you understand? I have to work on like connecting this bitch to the database. I'm not worried about your little bouncy bounce."
Yo, it definitely takes skill when somebody comes back after you like figure something out or work, and they're like, it's kind of too fast, and you want to be like,
I will cut you.
Cool. I've got real good at being like, cool. I say just like that and be like, try to be energetic. I'm like, no, don't do it. But okay, it's art. It doesn't matter. I'm at work. Cool. Yeah, it's too fast. We'll slow it down in the engine. Don't worry.
Actually, I have. Never mind. If I come on another episode, I'll talk about it. There's somebody who I know who happened probably. Jack probably knows this individual because he works at Tree. He was my art director, so I won't say anything.
Nice.
Back in the day when he worked at Midway Games, he was my art director. Kind of drove me nuts. It's like So.
That was one of the cool things about building things in Flash. I always approached everything with, if it can change, it will change. Mm-hmm. And so I built everything in a way to where, okay, you want that to go fast? I just like update like an XML file or something. Everything was external. And it got so bad that we had Scott Carey on the show before. Scott Carey was teaching a Flash class, and I went in to talk about animating and stuff. And I didn't know like the tool panel, because even though I knew Flash, I didn't know I never had to open it anymore.
Carlos is like, ooh, what's this thing over here?
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, where's the
No. Did you feel like a noob?
No, but that happens all the time. You get folks who are real special. You go over to like some technical director's thing, and and they're like, okay, well, show me your problem, and you'll be like, okay, well, make like a cube, and they're like, how am I going to make a cube?
This is how bad it was. I was trying to get the color of a square. And I had to text another friend of mine. I was like, yo, I'm trying to pick up this color from this square. I don't know how to. He goes, you mean the eyedropper tool? I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah. I understand what Jack said, but what you're saying is totally different. It's like, this left. And the little
that's true. It's always there, and it's pretty universal in so many programs.
Eyedropper tool. You program your ass off, but you can't get the eyedropper.
If it doesn't start with if then else, he doesn't know what.
I know, right?
You probably thought about making one.
Probably, yeah. I've done that before too. Like, listen, when I tell you if it can change, it will change. I built so much, and people be like, "What's going on?" Like, I'm like, literally everything. Like when I did the what you call it, Tom Cruise's website, it was if you needed to add a little something, you didn't even need to recompile anything. You just added a little something to the X amount, and the whole site would change.
No, knowing Carlos, the words that add a little something.
I did like I would create functions where you would have to say please, otherwise it wouldn't do it. So like, give me that image please, otherwise it wouldn't work.
All right, Sketch. This is when you know you work a lot of late nights when
trying to keep it interesting.
He's coding and answering himself and being polite with himself in his code.
Because, well, like I said before, someone is going to come behind you, and you want them to be.
And they're going to be pissed because they're going to bang their head against the wall for an hour and then realize they didn't say please.
Just like I was working with this dude, we were working on a Barbie project together, and whenever something would happen, something good would happen, you can see some information being sent back and forth. And when this specific function would be done, it would say, bring the booyah. I walked in and the next morning and I just gave him a hug. I was like, well played, sir. That was good. I needed that.
I hate to admit it, but one time I was writing this animation tool, I put in a very specific feature for a very specific username. And I can't even elaborate beyond there because it was pretty bad. But
find it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So good.
Yeah.
Keep yourself amused.
Mm-hmm.
It was the one thing with the game, and
you started going crazy after, especially with someone like Matt doing the visual effects on the back end. You're number one, you're getting overworked. Late nights, you start going a little bit crazy after a few nights.
I call it Daffy. Daffy is crazy, but you're happy. You know? You can either go that way or you can go that really darker place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was me.
So you can see my students when the end of the semester comes, they start getting daffy. I'm like, you're getting daffy. You know, where they start laughing but they're just losing their mind, you know. So.
Well, how much you use in the game industry also? So like, usually that's about the time people start putting in little Easter egg things.
Oh yeah, well the producers will tell you, like, you know, they say, listen, we know you're going to put Easter eggs in. Please don't do anything too crazy.
Because they always try to produce it, right? The producer always try to produce it, but like they try to produce that part of it. Like you can't stop this. And we used to say, you know, if you talk about it, it just makes it worse. Like one artist will always use that same like slogan. They come into the room, have the little talk about Easter eggs or as an email, and then that one dude's bold enough to like reply to that all email. If you talk about it, you just make it worse. Just put stuff in, you know, backside of a basketball hoop that you'll never see is a picture of, you know, my face or something.
Yeah, it happens, especially if you're a programmer. Oh, hey, you know what time?
Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come. This or that. This or that. This or that. This or that. This or that.
Hey, Matt, here's a little game we play called This or That. It's pretty simple. Just pick this or that. AR or VR?
What's that?
AR or VR?
In what respect?
You tell me.
Preference? I don't know. I mean, I guess AR. I guess because all I can think of when I think of VR is the fact it's going to open up it's going to open up the doors to people of older age. Because if I go to my mother or my grandmother and show them VR, they're like, that thing is of the devil, you know. And you are going to put it on your head, you know, put it on your head and all this, you know. Whereas AR is going to help grandma fix a pipe, you know.
Sure.
You know, so I think AR is the future. You know, VR is the blind man's AR. You know.
Yeah.
Bang into a wall. Yeah.
Cool.
Pre-production or post-production?
That's a good call. Pre-production.
They always have more time. I don't care where you are. You always have more time pre-production. Online or face-to-face?
Face-to-face.
Commercials or movies?
It's hard to say. I'd say commercials.
And this is my last one. Tribeca or Sundance Film Festival?
You know, the irony is we're so Tribeca is just like this. I don't know how much money they contribute to quote unquote our school, but it's not much, and they have very little affiliation with us, with the exception of our students get a freebie ticket into Tribeca in New York when it happens.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's worth price of admission.
Sundance.
Literally.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
I'm trying to secretly get fired. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's interesting, our school, because we've kind of our name changed from, it was called Tribeca it was called Flashpoint Academy when we started.
Mm-hmm.
That was 7 years ago. No, it was more than that now, 10, 11 years ago. And then then Tribeca came along and threw a couple clams our way, and then we became Tribeca Flashpoint Academy, and then we now became Tribeca Flashpoint College. I'm waiting for the new company to come along and throw a couple more clams our way, and we'll have the fifth name on on top of it. But yeah,
Flashpoint Tribeca.
Tribeca Flashpoint
Zone
College is the current name of the school.
Sketch Zone College.
Yeah.
University of Illinois.
Nonprofit.
You know, it's interesting. You guys are talking about Illinois Institute of Art, and again, Chris did a great job when he was the chair. You know,
yeah.
The strangest thing I'm hearing from them right now is, again, this is happening a lot with these, because our school just recently went from. Actually, no, I'm not going to say anything.
There it is. Yeah.
Ignore that statement.
Yeah.
But the Illinois Institute of Art is a for-profit school, and I'm starting to hear all the Goldman Sachs money is the greediness of that is starting to affect that school as far as the quality of students. I have some amazing part-time teachers that we know of, and they're telling us that the sky is falling when it comes to Illinois Institute of Art now in Chicago. So I don't know. I think I don't know what it is, honestly, or what causes a school to go down that route. But that's one thing that we, as our school, is trying to avoid big time. When I did teach at Illinois Institute of Art for like a couple semesters, and they had the Chicago branch. Maybe you guys were in the Schaumburg branch. I don't know if that's the Chicago branch actually had. At the time, it really had their stuff together, man. Their portfolio was, progress of portfolio was progressive. I mean, it's just like kicking these kids' butts. Get your portfolio. And the kids' work was amazing. I taught some game studio classes there for making mods, and they would put together their models and bring them into the engine. So, but it was really awesome. But now it's, and this is one thing I always bring up, the whole idea of what's your guys' opinion for segueing away from that. We'll save it for another day. But for-profit, non-for-profit, I could write a whole movie on that. I think there's a great movie, if you want to talk about education, you guys should definitely take a look at it. It's called Ivory Tower. If you get a chance, it's absolutely amazing.
I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so it also kind of goes over it's not just a complaint department movie, like all schools are corrupt. It's like, what's the best model? And they talk about the hybrid of online and on the ground, brick and mortar. And that's what our school is. I literally tell my students, there's 3-hour videos. Go watch them. Come back. Okay, let's kind of troubleshoot your shot, So that way, no students like, what did I miss? And they were, slacking and didn't show up for class.
I do. This is what you were talking about earlier. I do like there's something about it, and you can spend the whole show on this, but like there's something about with your school in particular, how I did understand that when I was teaching that a couple of my cohorts went over to Flashpoint, and the interesting part about it is they have a whole online section where teachers are dedicated to only doing that. So they have their whole job every day is to like build content for the online, the same way they would do their classrooms, but they're just working in the online section. So you guys begin to have all this like good online knowledge, not just like, you know, a PDF here and there, but like hours of footage, you know, and they try to figure out how to do it the best way and reach the kids the best way in it with it being online. So it's probably interesting that you guys have that resource as well as like, yo, you can sit here and talk to me face to face also and figure out how to do this new compositing.
It still needs that hands-on though. That's one thing that the documentary covers. The ivory tower, besides all the nonsense we have to deal with the Department of Education, you know, which eventually, in my opinion, waters down the curriculum to conform to their system, you know. The original, when we created Tribeca, it was a 2-year, it wasn't even an accredited degree, but it was an in and out, get in here, we're going to smash your face into a computer for 2 years, and you're going to come out, and yeah, you won't have an AA degree, but you will have what you need to get out and work in the industry, you know. And then we eventually adapted an AA degree and BA, and me and Chris are doing the best we possibly can. I think we're doing a bang-up job, specifically Chris, on just taking what we have to take, which is the Department of Education's standards, and applying them to get the best bang for the student's buck, especially when the buck and the price of education is skyrocketing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of touched on this topic earlier, but the responsibility the students have to realize that the responsibility of their future ultimately is on them.
Right. That's right. Yes.
I always looked at it as, you know, the tuition and everything was basically me renting the equipment. And then I got, you know, coaches that would help me accomplish whatever it was that I was trying to do. And then when I became the career service advisor, students would come to me and say, well, you know, I want to do this. And so I said, well, why doesn't your demo reel show that? Oh, because, you know, such and such said that such and such and such and such. And I said, okay, well, number one, the responsibility is yours.
Excuse.
Yeah. You have to get to that point. Number two, let's say, you know, because we had Richard Hyde on here before. He was my portfolio teacher. Give to your teachers what they want to see, but create your demo reel to get you to wherever it is that you want to go. Mm-hmm. Right? You want to see, because when I was graduating, everyone had tractors on their damn demo reels, right? Mm-hmm. So here's a tractor. Hold that, and there you go. And then I was handing out like different demo reels. I don't want to build tractors. I wanted to do something completely different. So I had 2 demo reels.
Yep.
And if you count the website, three different demo reels. I had the teacher one, I had the one that I was sending out to the companies, and then I had my website. So give to the teachers what they want to see. But ultimately, the responsibility is like we've had Patrick Coleman on here. Patrick Coleman gave his portfolio teacher all the 3D stuff that they were asking for, and he came back with this motion graphics demo reel that was amazing. Mm-hmm. And he just killed that After Effects, and the 3D degree didn't ask you to have After Effects. So he came into my office one day and he showed me that motion graphics demo reel. I was like, this is going to be easy. This is going to be easy to get this kid a job, because he crushed it. And I guess that's the pep talk. Use the school to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Use your teachers to help you get to that point. But the teachers don't exactly know what you're trying to do until you tell them, right? And then handle your shit. Like, you have to take responsibility for your future. I would go crazy when kids are like, well, my teacher said this and that. Okay, so why are you limiting them? Your class is what, an hour, maybe 2 hours long. There's another 22 hours in the day. Find a computer and get to work.
Yep. There it is.
You gotta hustle.
Go.
With that being said, let's talk about some guys that probably did a lot of overtime. Artist inspiration.
You're the inspiration. You bring feeling to my life. You're the inspiration.
Okay, let's talk about this monster.
I got a good one this week. I don't know if you got a monster.
Let's talk about this
Just
monster.
saying. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Jay Pastrana.
You coming out swinging?
Jason Pastrana. I'm assuming that's how you say his name. Yeah, let's talk about that, man. Photoshop works on Spider-Man. A little bit of rain bouncing off his skull right there.
Yeah, what's up with your voice right now?
I have to. He gets me excited. Let's talk about these people here. Like, these kids here are probably VFX students going into Tribeca Film School.
Put their heads down.
Flashpoint. And they're, look at that guy right there. He did a lot of overtime. He is just defeated. That guy right there.
Look at Jack. Jack, what's he doing this week? Let's see some artwork. Click.
Boom. That guy right there just got done paying his tuition. That guy right there. Dude, got a little Iron Man. Oh, by the way, if you're listening on iTunes, Jason Pastrana, he's got a lot of not X-Men, Marvel characters.
Watch enough. Yeah.
Got a little Iron Man right there. Look at that.
Black Panther.
Oh, I know that. I knew that was going to wake you up, racist.
It's a cool character.
This dude, look at. Just create a little Venom action. Walking. He's actually right side up, but he's walking down the building. What?
It's interesting because we were working on this concept by this one guy. You remember the Budweiser "What's Up" commercials? You know, "What's up?"
Yeah.
The director of that, the creator of that, Steve Connor. He's based in Chicago, and he was throwing a concept together where he had a similar idea like this, except you had light cycle bikes, but they were going and jumping from building to building, but everything was on the side 90 degrees, and we put together like these animax for it. It was so cool, the whole idea and design of it, you know. But the whole the way that everything changes when you look, you know, frame everything 90 degrees on a building.
Awesome.
Look at this dude.
Is he Photoshop for real? Is that what he is? Like,
I'm assuming Photoshop.
You and Jack be posting these guys to do processes and stuff. Now I want to see like the build up. I wish he had like an GIF.
He does have a YouTube channel. So yeah, chances are it is Photoshop, because let's see. Let's take a real quick look at this. Boom, Photoshop.
Okay.
Tis Photoshop.
All right. It's old school Photoshop. Do you see that Photoshop? Yo.
No plugins.
The realest. Hats off to Jason. It's just skill.
I like the way he moves the camera around. That's something that I've been working on lately.
Yeah, that's good. I like that one.
So you guys just find people that you're like, these guys got an awesome reel. Let's just, you know, showcase. That's cool.
That's it. Easy peasy. So yeah, Jason Pastrana, JasonPastrana.com.
And check out his YouTube channel.
Show links. Yeah, he's got links to his Twitter, his Instagram, and everything.
Instagram.
Instagram.com/pastrana.jason. Look at this dude. You want to talk about someone who is salty? He has to go to work. Son, it's okay.
Looks like he works.
Dinner is coming. That's what I look like when someone ate my dinner. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah. So hungry.
Anyway, that's it. Jason Pastrana.
All
Good
right.
job, son.
Nice, man. Good one. Let's go. My guy this week is a 3D. I had to go back to 3D. Andy Lee, character designer over in the United Kingdom, over Leeds. Not a huge art station, but all the models captured on this one are pretty badass. So he's got this newest one he has up is his work in progress one. But I've always had an affinity for character artists. I like them. Even though I do environments, I appreciate a good character artist. So yeah, this is a really good. He's got just it's also a different style. I like when their 3D lends itself really good to still frame, where he's like and the style's so different and it tells a story. Like look at this, really good texture work. Obviously, I know about the texture work also, so it looks really good.
Give us a little zoom right there, kid. Let's take a look at that.
It's like a little substance painted area.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we were talking about how when I was working in game design, we started creating, and obviously they have this at every studio, like assets library.
Mm-hmm.
You need AK-47, don't build it, we have one. And levels and all this, and how eventually you would recognize, the games would start to look the same.
Right.
And then specifically in Substance Painter, because you have to try so hard to get away from the current texture maps they have on there, because you can identify a Substance Painter default, texture map that you use for sculpt.
Gotta build that. You gotta build that up.
Break it
You
up.
gotta make it good. I need like good 50, 60 layers deep, going in there and making it your own. And then you gotta add your own substance on top of that too. So I used to tell students when they started, when the Quixel Suite came out and when Substance Painter came out, and they're like, "This is amazing." I'm like,
It's
a base. Not what if you turn this in and put this on here, because I want to see all of your work in progress. If you turn this in, I'm failing you. I'm not even giving you like a C. I'm failing you because it doesn't make a difference. It's a base. Or you better yet, you know what? I know what I do. Got to make them from scratch. How's that?
Yeah.
That's how you fix that problem.
That's the name of my substance tutorial. It says from scratch to substance, because if you just use their default textures, everything looks the same, and you don't know it until you get into Substance Painter, at least maybe 3 or 4 months in, and you're like, wow, wait a minute, I got to go and build my own stuff in Substance Designer.
My favorite one. This is pretty cool.
That one is very cool.
There you go. It's different, so I'm all for 3D guys. If you just make it different, I
want to see a tractor,
because the 2D guys, they got their sites and it's all different. Their stuff is interesting. It's not a bunch of tractors and stuff.
Yeah, I've told this story on the show before, but my tractor was blinged out.
Blinged it out. Yeah, that's what it was.
I had like a gold chain link steering wheel, gold spoke rims on it. It was trimmed out. It was the normal green tractor, but it had like gold plated highlights on it. Had the little hang down dingo balls on there. Yeah.
The other program, if you guys looking for making something different, was it chromed out wheels too?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No. It wasn't chromed out. It was gold out.
They're dating.
I had 24 solid gold spoke rims on that bad boy.
Mm-hmm. It's if you haven't looked at Substance, but Marvelous Designer is another cool one with the clothing and stuff. It really helps to set yourself apart. your characters from just being naked. But this is Andy Lee, man. He's got a really good site, really good style. And look at this. You don't have to have a lot, you know. You just have to be different, you know. You just have to.
I like the mask.
Have a different style, you know. Oh snap! That's the wrong one. The mask. This one.
Mm-hmm.
This one's cool too. What do you got? Jack.
Very nice.
All right. So I'm gonna go 3D this week.
Yes. Charlie damn near piddled.
It's a good week.
All right. So we've got Luis Arizaga.
Ooh.
I just really dig this character design.
Okay.
Yes.
This is like good stuff.
Ooh.
I couldn't even tell you what he's using, what he's rendering with, what if the hair is modeled, procedural, couldn't tell you. It's just awesome.
I would find an awesome character guy that looks like it's 2D stuff. This is cool.
Yeah, I agree. I love it when they can do that translation.
Yeah, and
well.
it's tough. It's tough to do because I've tried to have some of my stuff turned into 3D, and it's a process. And getting it convincing and faithful representation is tough.
Yeah, I thought about you did a character, Jack, the other day with the guy with like a mustache or whatever. It's like the time one you did. I was like, oh, I should try to. I should buy that one. Now I was like, oh, that looks like it'd be really hard. I don't know that line there is not really real. How do you?
So he's also on the Instagrams where he's got some non-3D stuff. Is
he doing clay stuff like Wallace and Gromit stuff?
I think this is a project he was working on. Yeah, Hardman. He's based in Barcelona.
Oh.
Barcelona.
So he's got some sketch stuff. But then, you keep scrolling and he's got some for real sculpting.
Ooh.
Nice.
He's got this dude with a goiter underbite problem.
And that one's really hard to do because it's really simple. There's just a lot of open shapes there, but you kind of.
So this is Luis Arizaga, Arizago. Link will be in the show notes.
Got some good Brazilians on the artist inspiration lately.
Yeah.
Cool.
Matt, is there anyone you want to share with?
Had I known, I don't know if you guys had told me, I would have looked it up, but yeah, I don't have anything for you.
All good.
It's all good.
All good. We'll get you next time. We'll dangle you as a carrot to try to get Chris Tadine on the show.
Is he not coming? Does he come on the show at all, or
not yet? We almost got him. He was on the schedule, and then he wrote back
to be a regular.
The next morning, he was like, "Hey, sorry, I fell asleep."
He told me that when I went to visit him too. So now he knows. I know it's on his brain. He needs to have the redemption and come on the show.
How long have you guys been doing the show, if you don't mind me asking?
Wow, this is like.
Well, we're on show
almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
It'll be 3.
It'll be 3 years in January.
Like how many viewers do you get? Like watching? Do you have like a live feed number or something?
It's about 2.
Okay.
Since we're on
2 of our closest
and I think one of them is me.
The live.
No, it all depends.
Yeah, it depends.
It all depends. We get a lot. We get a lot on the
iTunes.
Because like
America, it's a downloadable podcast type thing.
Yeah. America is asleep right now, so.
or
not Dave Atty.
You guys are up.
Not Dave Atty.
Half asleep.
Joe Hunt Comics says, "Love the design." I'm assuming that was Jack's thing.
Mine.
So thank you, Joe Hunt. All right, cool. Do we have any more questions for Matt before we go?
I think we're good.
That was a good run.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Matt, if people want to learn more about your classes and if they're looking for more information about what you do, where can they find you?
If you go to Tribeca Flashpoint.edu, that's the school me and Chris teach at. Again, we offer 2-year and 4-year degrees. And I was shocked to hear the tuition. It wasn't as expensive as I never look at those numbers, you know, but it wasn't as crazy as Illinois Institute of Art or these other colleges I've noticed. I don't know if they brought the tuition down or something.
Yes.
I have a joke.
Yeah, there's that. And then if you're a filmmaker that wants to get into CG or you know, vfxforfilm.com, and I have a couple of and also for you guys, I think I sent a coupon code to Charles. But if any of you guys want to like download any of this stuff, I only have 2 tutorials up. I'm building more. I'm doing a lot of free content for publicity on YouTube, a lot of nuke tutorials, intro to nuke. I'm doing one right now. It's going to be an intro to just if I'm a filmmaker and I want to do a really quick live action and CG piece with say a Theta 360 and just a real simple render in Maya with almost like a boxy type item. So like here's my camera, I record it, put my little CG object in, render it out, and it's the bare bones basic. So it's basically a website that's trying to bridge that gap of filmmakers who want to go into VFX but don't want to go fully overboard and kill themselves technically, you know.
Get some started,
Cool.
right?
So, yeah.
Kickstart.
VFXforFilmmakers.com.
It's either vfxforfilmmakers.com or vfxforfilm. I bought both domains, so you can easily
cool.
get on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks for coming on the show and
Yeah. Thank
sharing
you.
my story.
Thank you.
Very cool.
I'm going to subscribe to your pod. It's called the Sketch Zone.
Yep.
Cool.
We'll send you the link. Share it with 2 more of your closest friends.
You know the number we always go back to. You and Jack, 2.
Yeah.
Share with 2.
What is it? Yeah, now that you've been on the show, tens of people will have seen your work.
Wow.
Is that true?
That's okay. Most of my audience are starving Russians and Indians in India. I get so many emails also like, can I have your tutorial for free? I'm broke. It's just like
Yeah, me too.
Send a coupon code. Yeah. It's just like a lot of Russians, man. There's a lot of like people like I that are out in the middle of nowhere that just like, you know, you're like this is obviously not from the States. Yeah. You see the receipt.
On this show also, there's a lot of you get surprised at how far.
Yeah, we have people who watch religiously in Israel, pun unintended, but yeah.
Really?
And then we have like currently right now in the chat room is Dave Atsy, who's from
Australia.
Yeah, I was waiting for Jack. Yeah.
You might have to like motion.
Yeah. Hey Charlie, if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
You find me on my website, cargocollector.com/CharlieBWilliams. I'm on instagram.com/CharlieBW3. Twitter, you can find me there, CBW3. Got a Facebook page, facebook.com/CharlieBWilliams and CharlieBW3 on Facebook for the artist page. Check out some other inspirations if you like the inspiration section. Check out my Pinterest, pinterest.com/CharlieBW3. Bunch of inspiration tutorials, all that stuff there. Get it in your life.
Dave said Australia, mate. Yeah, I know, Dave. I was waiting for the I like turtles, okay?
He said it like he said it with all like, come on, Carlos, it's Australia.
Yeah.
Like we knew it was.
Hey Jack, if people are looking for you online, where can they find you?
I am at sketchbookjack.com and sketchbookjack on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest.
Excellent. And I am Carlos Gomez. You can find me at coconutjustice.com. Coconut Justice everywhere else. This is Sketch Zone. Go to sketch.zone to get your fill, because this is like 116, episode 116. So yeah, go to sketch.zone and we have all the links for everything. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. And remember that, YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and tell your friends. And before we let you go, the prompt of the week is a woman just realizing that she was bitten by a zombie and is in process of becoming one. And with that, my friends, we bid you a fantastic week. Have a good week, y'all.
See you guys.
See ya.